I want to speak about the vigilance of Stendarr and this archetype in the Elder Scrolls, the archetype of the Paladin. In the Elder Scrolls, the archetype of the Paladin is not very. There's not a strong base to the archetype of the Paladin. I do remember in Oblivion there was the Knights of the Nine quest where it was DLC, I believe, and you would have to get a set of armor resemblant to a paladin, which was this kind of Templar, kind of warrior of holy power or something like that. And I think the Elder Scrolls has a great chance to create something about paladins, and we can see this in Skyrim with the Vigilance of Stendarr. It would be a great opportunity to create some sort of paladin-like archetype, because it has everything else. The whole religion and mythology in the Elder Scrolls, the paganism that they manage, is very complete. I am still amazed of how they managed to create such a complete pantheon of gods that do represent different archetypes from humans and from our deepest desires, our deepest concepts, which is what paganism is all about. But in any case, as I'm going through my playthrough in Skyrim, and I got a mod where I can join the Vigilance of Stendarr, they come as a very interesting little faction in the Elder Scrolls in Skyrim that didn't get a lot of attention and they didn't put too much into them, but they are quite interesting. And I believe they have much more potential to become a big faction in the upcoming Elder Scrolls game, because if we think about it, they are very important. The whole notion about them existing is because of the time-old narrative of people looking for power, going into dark arts, going into deals with the Daedra, and managing to get amazing amounts of power and almost destroying the world in some sort of catastrophic event that changes the lives of everyone around. So the Vigilance of Stendarr come as this light, as this righteous faction who is not going to allow this to happen anymore. According to the lore, the Vigilance of Stendarr appear after the events from... By the time we play in Skyrim, they've been 200 years old. They appeared after the events of the Oblivion Crisis. So they are a very new faction. A lot of people say like, oh, why do they just have like a small hole in Skyrim and so on? They're so lame and whatever. It's like, no, they're just a very young faction. They're barely starting to grow. It's like, in a sense, they remind me of the early Christian cults that began to appear after the events in real life mythology of Jesus and so on. But in any case, it's quite interesting because, yes, indeed, they have this tendency to evolve and to create their own cults and create their own offshoots. In fact, the whole thing about the Dangad is an offshoot of the Vigilance of Stendarr, who are seem to be weak and seem to be not prepared or not mighty enough or not smart enough to actually deal with Daedra and with the Daedric menaces that threaten the land. But it is exactly this what makes the Vigilance of Stendarr such a great candidate, great candidates for the Paladin archetype, because if we go into the lore of Stendarr, we can see that he is the god of mercy, but at the same time he is the god of justice. So Stendarr has a perfect archetypal balance of masculine and feminine tendencies, because he is the righteous might, he is the justiciar, he is the rule with a fist, with a hammer, but at the same time he is mercy and he is justice. He's able to tell the difference. He is able to manage the strength that is applied upon the negative forces. Now, being that he is a god of mercy, And being that the Vigilants of Stendarr are students in restoration, it's seen as something very feminine. But in fact, I believe this is the perfect balance for an archetype. Because, you know, this is just a game and this is just lore, but all these archetypes have these very elemental forces behind them, which these elemental forces are very true. They're not just a fantasy thing. We can see these elemental forces in all lores, even in real life lores, mythologies and religions. So this is what it is amazing about the Elder Scrolls, that it manages to put all these little elements into the video game and in creating these subconscious ideas, or better said, recycling, reminding us of these subconscious patterns in our minds. As I was going through my playthrough and got this mod called Winter Zone, which probably I will feature at some point, it goes a little bit deeper into the religions and the archetypes in Skyrim, and I found out about these precepts of Stendarr. I found them quite interesting. So they go like this. It says, never refuse aid you are capable of providing, go among the infirm and the wounded wherever you find them. Offer prayer to Stendarr every day. Do not hoard wealth or indulge physically. These are things that are very common in, you know, our real life mythologies related to Christianity. But at the same time, what I find great about this is that, for example, the last one says do not indulge in physically, do not hoard wealth, and which might seem like good, humble ideas, right? But at the same time, they can be limiting beliefs. And when you go into the Hall of Stendarr, or one of the forts from the Stendarr followers, they say things like, better follow the path of the light, or we will drag you to it. So it has that zealous attitude from real life mythologies and real life zealots that we can see in some of our real life religions, which is kind of interesting because it turns the positive archetype of light into darkness, showing us that the archetype of light has the capacity of darkness. And this is completely lore friendly, because if we go into the basis on how the universe of Tamriel was created, how the universe of the Elder Scrolls was created, we have two elemental energies, one positive and one negative, and they intermingle and something happens like a Big Bang thing. And out of the sudden we got the Aethra, who becomes the bones of the earth or planet, something like that. I will go into it. This is a very, very interesting story as well. But it shows us that the Aethra have principles of positive and negative energy at the same time. Unlike the Daedra, who are purely negative, but in reality we can see that the Daedra can also have positive features, just as the Aethra can have negative ones. So this is why this game is so successful, because it gives us an idea of how archetypes and how elemental energy works. You can use this energy for good or bad, and this is just one of the reasons why the Elder Scrolls is such an amazing franchise and a successful one. It allows us to peek into the reality of the subconscious mind through fiction narratives. If you made it so far in the video, thank you so much for watching. You can follow me at Bellicus the Paladin for memes and some other nonsense, and for lore and more serious things and also a bit of nonsense, you can follow me at You Can Call Me Marco on YouTube and on Twitch. Thank you so much for watching again, and I'll see you next time.